Hi everyone, Swade here from Coaster Explorers, and this is my first time doing a coaster review as it is pretty much a brand new channel at this point. With that being said, bear with me, this won't be perfect by any means, and over time I'll hopefully get better with these reviews. But with that out of the way, let's move on to the review. As of the recording of this video, Kings Island currently has 14 operating roller coasters, with their 15th, Snoopy's Soapbox Racers, opening very soon. Enthusiasts and the general public alike enjoy ranking the different coasters that KI has to offer, and just theme parks in general, and these rankings really just depend on what you look for in a roller coaster. However, when you look at Kings Island's coasters, there's always that one coaster that seems to be all over the place, and that is Invertigo. Some seem to think that it's just okay, some really love it, and some really hate it. For my first review, I'm going to dive into this small coaster and see if it's really as bad as some people like to claim. Invertigo is a Vekoma inverted boomerang, also known as an Invertigo model, which means Kings Island currently has the ride named as itself? I don't know, but I think it's a pretty fitting name personally. Vekoma has only ever built 4 of these Invertigo models, with 3 of the 4 still being in operation. Invertigo at Kings Island is the only one left in the US, as Stinger at Dorney Park was removed in 2018 and its parts were sent off to Kings Island. The model at Kings Island opened in April of 1999 as Face Off with a yellow and red paint scheme. In 2008, the park renamed the ride to Invertigo as it was attempting to remove all of the Paramount theming from the recent sale a few years back of the Paramount parks. The ride was also repainted to its current light blue track and blue support scheme in 2012. So now we'll take a quick look at the actual ride experience on Invertigo. The coaster is only capable of running one train, unfortunately, which seats 28 riders, so not the best capacity. However, the Invertigo model is different from your normal boomerang that you would see at a park like Carowinds, Worlds of Fun, because you're suspended below the track, but you also face the other riders unless you're on one of the end seats. So what this means is you'll be sitting there, and directly in front of you, instead of seeing, for example, the back of someone's head or the area out in front of you, you'll be facing someone face to face. So that's pretty unique. You start off first by going up the 138-foot lift hill, stop for a few seconds before being dropped 130 feet back towards the station. As soon as you clear the station, you immediately hit a cobra roll, followed directly by a vertical loop. You then climb another lift hill where you get released again and repeat the layout, although this time in reverse. This ride technically only has 3 inversions, but because you do the layout twice, you go upside down a total of 6 times. Since we've talked about the actual ride experience and the layout, let's get now to the actual review where I'll talk about my ranking, my thoughts, opinions on the coaster. And I don't really have an assigned set of categories to rank for a final score, but I'll talk about a few important ones such as intensity, smoothness, operations, how fun the ride is, things like that. Starting off with intensity, just wow. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I think Invertigo is the most intense coaster at the park. The stomach drop feeling you get from that first drop after being just held there for a few seconds is something that you don't get on a lot of coasters at the park. The pure intense positive G-forces on the Cobra roll especially make me come close to graying out, which is something that really rarely happens for me. The vertical loop is also a mixture of positive G's and hang time when you come out of it, which, again, it's just fantastic. It has a good combination of positive and negative G's. Despite the coaster being so short, there really isn't a dull moment. Even the anticipation of climbing both of those lift hills is great because you're just dangling with those feet below you or your feet below you, and the only thing between you and falling out is that restraint that's holding you in. When looking at a coaster, you've also got to consider the operations, which I've already kind of briefly touched on, but they're pretty bad. The park does their best. I mean, Kings Island has some of the best operations in the industry, but it's just a limited capacity coaster. As much as I like Invertigo, if that line goes past the point where you have the larger amount of queue open in the canopy, I just skip it. The line may not look long, but between fast lane and one train ops, that wait can easily turn into 30 to 40 minutes. I also want to talk about quality of the ride, so things like smoothness, restraints, and just general quality. If you've ridden in Vertigo, you know for sure it's not the smoothest ride at the park. While I do love the intensity, the positive G's just kind of make it hard for the ride not to be shaky, especially on that Cobra roll. The restraints are also the old hard over the shoulder restraints, meaning you get a lot of head banging and ear banging. I've learned how to ride in Vertigo where I don't get that head banging, but at the same time, if you have to learn how to ride a coaster, that probably means it's not the smoothest out there. It would be such a game changer if Vekoma came in and retrofitted those trains with their new modern restraints, but I just don't see that happening. And finally, I just want to mention which seat I think is best. If you're with friends, obviously go for one of the middle rows so you can face each other. But if you're solo, though, my choice would be row 1 or row 14, with a preference on row 1. Those G forces just hit so much harder in those rows. A night ride is also really fun, but I don't think it's worth taking your time if you're out of town. If it's your home park, sure, go for it. But the night ride really isn't that much different than a day ride. Now it's time to give Invertigo my final score. For each coaster review, I'll give the ride a ranking out of 10. In this case, I would give Invertigo a 7. It's not nearly as unbearable as some people make it out to be, but it's definitely showing its age. I can't give a higher score just because there are 6 coasters that I think are better at Kings Island, but hey, it's still a great coaster and worth a few rides, especially if you're a first timer. Ride it while it's still here, we really don't know how long it's going to have left. So what did you think of my first coaster review? What did you agree with? What would you change? Let us know down in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one.